So, as I'm sure you know, last Sunday was Mother's Day. And it was a really big Mother's Day in my family because it was my daughter's first Mother's Day as a mom. Yeah, man, big deal. Circle of life stuff, you know, it was huge. And so we went over to Orlando because my son lives in Orlando, and we decided to just hang out together and just be a family. My wife and I and our son and our daughter and her husband and that beautiful grandbaby who I can say without exaggeration is the most perfect being who ever existed. And I am free from bias, and that's just how it is. But we just sort of hung out by the pool, you know. It's kind of a great thing just to sort of be for a minute, you know. Life has got a lot going on, and so it's nice to just sort of be for a minute. But it was a big deal in another way because it was Arlo, my grandson, he's 5 months old. It was his first time in a pool. Now, we know that back when he was dining on room service, he was swimming a lot. But this was the time, you know, and it was kind of a big deal because I don't know if you've been in a parental role, whether or not biologically, but just there for somebody. There's a lot of pressure to not mess the kid up. You know, got to make sure, are we introducing the right foods at the right time? We don't want to create some kind of a situation where allergy can happen. We don't want to mess the kid up about loud noises and TV. We want to, you name it, right? There's so much. And so there was some pressure and some concern, let's say, about this is the kid's first time in the pool. We don't want him to freak out. We want this to feel natural and good and safe and blah, 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 blah. So hold the baby close in the water. You know, and so he had his daddy, and he loves his daddy, and they very carefully went down every step, and he held him so close. It was okay. Feet went in, little feet, little legs, little knees, little waist, little belly. Everything's okay. We're all right. Hold him close, and we kind of hung out. All of us were just kind of in a cluster, watching what the kid might do. No pressure at all. And then soon enough, he went to his mama, and his mama held him really close, and we all just sort of watched. And then somehow, miraculously, wonderfully, it was my turn. I don't know how I got to be 33 in that order, but hey, I'll take it. And I thought, you know, I'm enough of a contrarian to where I don't like to do what people tell me to do anyway. But it was hold the baby close, because he, you know, could explode. And I thought, you know what, I think this guy's okay. And so I held him tight, because I hold him tight, but I hold him like this. And I looked into his little eyes, and I said, all right, buddy, what are you going to do? And he looked at me. He's a very serious fellow. And he's got this look of toothless determination. And he looked at me, and he took a beat. And then he started kicking his legs. He was swimming. Something magical happened. And I don't know if he'll remember that. But I will never forget that moment of connection and power. And I'm doing this thing. And when he kicked his legs, I moved back so it was like he was swimming. And I don't know how long I did that. I could have done it. I could still be doing it. Just pruning in the pool. Just forever. But it was such a beautiful thing. And I feel so blessed to have been there in that moment of power. I'm swimming. And I think about the fact that there's such a temptation to either hold tight or to go, you know what, we got to get this kid in the Olympic team. Call the Wheaties people, he's going on the box. A little premature, you know? But there's so much pressure to either think about the fears or think about the future that we miss this amazing thing that this was a miracle that I just experienced. You can't talk me out of that. But to see that miracle means being there. Sometimes there's a temptation to hold so tight. Sometimes there's a temptation to think so far into the future that we miss that moment. You know, I have to say that when people come to pray with me, when people come for spiritual counseling, you know, stuff like that, there's a lot of things I could do, you know. I could say, you know what, let's talk about all of those yucky, terrible people and all of those bad things that have happened to you. And let's talk about how much it stinks and how awful everything is. You're right. No, that's not helpful. Or I could say, you know what, I'm just going to handle all of this for you. And we're just going to skip this middle part of learning. But it doesn't work that way. People say, will you pray for me? And I can't. You know that, right? We talked about this. I can't pray for you because I can't think for you. I can't grow for you. I can't love for you. I can't dance for you. I can't create for you. I can't sleep for you. How in the world can I pray for you? Prayer is something that happens in your heart between you and God, right? I can't do that for you. I wouldn't want to. I don't want to get in the way of that. What is this, some kind of intercessory thing where I'm like, okay, God, my client would like peace and prosperity. Yeah, I'm not down for that. It doesn't work that way, you know? I have to say that when I am hurting, I don't need anybody to tell me about how this stuff works. I've read the books too. I don't need anybody to pretend like it ain't happening. I don't need anybody to rehash all of the yucky stuff that I'm going through. I know it. All I need is for someone to be there with me. Think about your healing time. Think about what you want. Think about what is nurturing to you. Sometimes it's not about protecting and it's not about forgetting. It's about holding. There is a middle way that leads to healing. And that way is described by the word home. You want to get better? Make a home. I'm not talking about a physical place. You know, this is an important thing. I have to say that as we learn about being responsible with our language, we start changing our terminology, and this is a good thing. It's a responsible thing. It's a politically correct thing. It's a sensitive thing, and I get that, and I'm for it. And I have to say that sometimes I struggle. Now, why are we saying that now? Okay, got it. And I'll try real hard. You know, I get it. It's important. But I have to say that one thing that I had no trouble with, one switch that I don't even know where I learned it, but because it just became part of me as soon as I heard it, somebody said, you know, we don't say homeless. We don't say that. And you know why? We don't say homeless because home is an abstract concept. There's even like a George Carlin bit about that. I'm not going to do it. Look it up. YouTube is your friend. But home is an abstract concept. I grew up with a roof over my head and regular meals, but it never felt like home to me. Maybe you know what I mean. And I'm not comparing. It's a completely different situation. I'm not trying to say it's the same thing. It is absolutely not. But these people don't need homes. They need houses, you know? And it's a different thing. So we don't say that word. We look at it in a different way. There's two different things, and sometimes I think when we confuse them, it makes it harder to solve the problem that's in front of us, you know? And yeah, you know what? I could do a different talk about how, yes, let's get better at taking care of people. Yes, let's be the kind of people who don't measure our prosperity by how well rich people are doing when other people are living on the streets. Let's measure prosperity by our ability to take care of each other. That's awesome, and we should do that. But that's not the lesson for today. The lesson for today is about home. Ask yourself, what feels like that to you? Because as sure as I'm standing here, there are people in the room and people watching online who say, you know what, I know that it's supposed to represent security and a soft place to land and maybe a jumping off point to something. I'm about to do this thing, and I want all of those things. It's supposed to feel like that, but I don't deserve that because of what I've done or what I've been through or my upbringing or what I was taught or, you know, that sort of thing. There are lots of people who say, I don't deserve that feeling now because of my past. And so if I'm that kind of person, my healing approach has everything to do with the future. I can't deal with the past, present, no thank you. So I'm going to spend all my time thinking about the future. It's going to be so great when I manifest this thing that I'm manifesting, right? When I get this, oh, this is terrible right now. But someday, when I manifest a new Buick or a condo or whatever it is, you know, then. For some people, spirituality is about, then. Well, how is that any different from When I get to heaven, then I don't have to deal with all you jerks. You know what I mean? You've heard that theology. And you know how hurtful it can be. Because if I spend all of my time in denial and in escape, I am not nurturing where I am. If you spend all of your time thinking about what's next and you don't nurture where you are, guess what? You ain't never going to get to what's next. So let's take that theologically and start thinking less about what I'm going to manifest or even where I've been, but rather, can I make my situation a nurturing, safe place? Can I find things going on right now that feed my soul? Can this be the place of jumping off into the next adventure? And I don't even have to worry about the adventure. I just have to worry about the home. You know I don't think a lot about making plans. I talk about this because you don't know. It's God's job. You know, that kind of thing. You've heard me talk about it. I'm not going to go there today. But the closest I will get to thinking about future stuff is this. Are you ready? This is core spirituality. This is a core teaching. Are you ready? Everything is practice. I've said it before, but like I said, this is core teaching. Everything is practice. If you're the kind of person that writes something down, write that down. If you're the kind of person that tattoos that, maybe later. Everything is practice. What I'm trying to say is that what you are doing right now is making you better at doing that thing later, right? Kind of makes sense. It's kind of a no-brainer almost, right? What I'm doing right now is going to make me better at doing that same thing later, right? Makes sense. And we nod our heads, and yet there's a lot of people that practice misery and think somehow it's going to lead them to happiness.
Right there.
Wait a minute. No. How? I'm going to get really good at scuba diving by climbing this mountain. What? Theologically, not cool. It doesn't work that way, right? So ask yourself about your life right now, about your relationships, about the way that you look at yourself in the mirror. You can't get to a place of self-esteem by thinking that that's a jerk looking back at you when you're brushing your teeth. Everything is practice. Ask yourself about your job, about your church, about the conversations you have. What is this making me good at? And is it something I actually would like to be good at? That's your power. How are you using it? I don't know if this is a universal New Thought saying. It's something that I grew up with in the branch of New Thought that I came from. It's a saying that we all heard, like Sunday school level kind of stuff. And it goes like this. See if you've heard this too. We increase what we praise. You heard that one? We increase what we praise. And that sounds very religious. It's got the P word in there, praise, and that sounds like a loud Hosanna or something, but that's not what the word means. We increase what we praise just means you get more of what you focus on. You get more of what you pay attention to. Praise is just what draws your attention. What are you passionate about? What do you pivot on? What is the thing that sticks out for you? Well, you're going to get more of that. We increase what we praise. And you know that. It totally makes sense. It's a fancier way of saying everything is practice, right? We increase what we praise. Ask yourself, what am I praising? What gets my attention when I'm talking to people? It's fun to talk about the yucky stuff and what those people are doing in the news. But if I'm the kind of person where that's all I have to talk about, I am always going to have more of that to talk about. If I set myself up as a slayer of dragons and a solver of problems, that's kind of great. But it means I'm always going to have dragons. I'm always going to have problems. And it is exhausting. Yee. Come on. We increase what we praise. In the world of fitness, people say, you get to a point where you're on your fitness journey and you're losing weight, and then all of a sudden there's this plateau. I can't lose any more weight. And I'm doing all the things. I'm watching all the videos. I'm eating the special macrobiotic whatever stuff, and I'm doing the thing, and I work out while I'm working out, and I'm all of those things. And all I think about is how much I'm losing weight, and I'm not losing any weight. But what they say now is that if you stop thinking about what you're trying to lose, if you stop thinking about the less, and you start thinking about the more, something changes. They say, what if you just thought about being fit? Instead of less weight, what about more fitness? What if I start just trying to get stronger, trying to get more able? What if I just want this body to work right? What if I want to feel good after I eat something? What if I want to sleep through the night? Wow. What if I just want more? And what they're finding out is that when you focus on that, all of a sudden, as a beautiful byproduct, you keep losing weight. You get healthier. The thing happens if you focus on not less, but on more. And I'm telling you that not because I'm going to produce my workout tapes next. Everybody get your CSL sweatbands. I'm not saying that for that. But instead I'm saying that because as we always say, everything is like everything. It is true in your body. It's true in your heart. We increase what we praise. So let us be the kind of people who spend less time trying to go, all of these terrible things, I'm going to pray those away. And instead focus on what I want to increase in my life. What is good? What is loving? What is noble? What is pure? Think on these things, you know? There's something beautiful about that. I thought that when I became a parent approximately 4 million years ago, my wife and I, we met as kids in youth group at church. We had children very early. And our parents were kind of interested in parenting like as a concept. They liked us kind of as a concept more than as people. We kind of had to figure out. It was a very Blue Lagoon sort of upbringing. We had to figure everything out on our own. That's a deep cut, right? We had to figure it out on our own. And it's not, there's no blame there. It is what it is. But I knew I wanted to be a dad. I knew that it was important, but I had no concept of what that meant, you know? And so I really thought that being a father meant preserving life. And I don't want to lean on the gender stereotype stuff too much, but I think that sometimes guys are sort of told that your job is to secure the perimeter. And so I thought that being a dad meant everybody make sure that you don't need an oil change. Everybody make sure the alarm is on and the doors are locked. We've got to shore all of this up. Well, if you've ever been around a kid, all they want to do is take the training wheels off. Look what I can do, and then jumping off the side of the balcony or whatever. It's that thing. It's that constant dynamic, and it freaked me out for the longest time. But I realized, too late, really, my kids were teenagers, and I realized that, you know what, I don't want every conversation I have with you to be about what you ought to be afraid of. I realized that it's not my job to preserve life. It's my job to try to give life. The difference between being afraid of what's outside the door versus sharing something that is everything. Ask yourself, if we increase what we praise, if everything is practiced, how do we treat the people around us? Are we preserving life, which sounds good on paper, not good in practice? Or are we giving life? Find something to do today to give life. Be there for someone. Share your heart. Be fearless about something, about the way that you talk to somebody, about the example that you set, about what's magical for you. Give life today. And it turns out the people that you have influence over, they'll remember to lock the doors. You know, it's not important. That will handle itself. Give life to someone today. Look, we know that that's what God does. And what we know is the more that you act like the image and likeness, the more you have an image and likeness life. It's a choice, yeah? So act that way if you want to have those big experiences. And that's a funny thing, you know, because that's what I'm here to talk about. Those moments, those big experiences, those things that we might call miracles or calling or breakthroughs or samsara, whatever word you want, that thing that happens. That's what I want to talk about and think about. And man, the more I think about ministry, the more I think this is a funny gig. Because the one thing that I want to talk about, I can't talk about. Because it's not words, is it? The one thing that I want to give you, I can't give you. You already got. This is a weird gig. But I ask people all the time I ask them, tell me about those moments when you just knew that something more than you was there. Those moments, like I said, people call it a calling or a breakthrough or a flash of enlightenment or I'm not interested in the particulars of the terminology. When the thing happened, the God thing happened for you, what happened? This is an interesting conversation to have with somebody. Maybe not a first date conversation, maybe like date 3. I already know you're weird and you can drop this on them. After you brought them to your cult church. Anyway. And I have asked people that all my life because I've been doing this all my life. And I have gotten all kinds of really interesting answers. The variety is huge, all kinds of things. But I have noticed that there are 2 things in every single story I've ever heard about the thing happening, the breakthrough, the miracle, the calling. There are 2 things that always happen. The moment of connection with the divine always carries with it a feeling of connection and a feeling of location. Connection and location. People tell me that when they feel it, they feel like, oh wow, I'm part of something bigger than me. And I realize that everybody around me is like a brother or a sister or a sibling or a friend, that we're all in this together. Connection. And there's this feeling of location. When something zooms out and all of a sudden, it's like looking at that thing in the mall that says, you are here. And feeling of, something is happening here. Connection and location. And it makes me think of how in every single story, we just got done with an allegory class around here, so we've been thinking about stories a lot. Every single story has this moment in it. After the hero has decided, you know what, I'm on this journey, they go to a place where it's a jumping off point. Luke Skywalker says, okay, Obi-Wan, I will go with you. And he takes him to the cantina, that place where there's all kinds of different aliens from all kinds of different places. And it's this jumping off point where there's this incredible diversity and a recognition that we're all on our way to something. It's the same thing when in Titanic, when Rose says, okay, Jack, I will go with you. And he takes her down to the dance party in 3rd class. It's that same thing happens in my favorite science fiction movie. It's called Under the Tuscan Sun. When she realizes that she's committed, she's bought this house, and then she meets all these people from all these different places. There's this jumping off point. There's this connection. And there's this location that happens. It happens every time. And I think about the diversity in those moments, and I think about, that's what I want church to be. Instead of some monoculture where we all kind of look the same and speak the same language and everybody disagrees with everybody about everything and how safe it is. It's holding too tight in the pool, I want it to be that moment of, man, there's a lot of weirdos in this cantina. But every single person in here has acknowledged that they are taking a trip and they're going somewhere from this launching point. That's what church is. That's what it ought to be. Let's make it that. We can make it that by acknowledging that each and every person in this room, each and every person watching online has made a decision. You decided to show up here. This isn't mainstream Christianity. No one threatened you with fire and brimstone to show up. You chose to be here. You're not here because you're scared. Honor that is a decision. You have chosen not to sleep in your life. And that is the beginning of everything. But that's only the first part. Honor that you are on a journey. But honor the diversity of this moment. There are so many people around that can teach you something, that can show you something, that we don't ignore the differences. We don't tolerate the differences. We celebrate the differences. Learn from the people around you and watch what happens. This is what we want. We don't want bubble wrap. And maybe we don't want to be thrown in the deep end either. The moment we let that go, the moment we stop thinking about what was or what can be, the past that's gone or the unknowable future, the moment we let those things go and we just say, what can I do right now to let myself be loved, to let myself be nurtured, to let this place be a jumping off place for my next adventure? What can I do to make a home? The moment that we do, we remember how to swim. We remember that we're free. Because after all, freedom is a choice. Thank you.